Welcome to the latest edition of the Shukri Wrights Podcast, first edition of 2022, hard to believe, with your host, Shukri Wrights. Today's guest, man, listen, if you told me 10 years ago, growing up in New York, still a college student in New York in the spring of 2012, that an African-American man was going to be hired at WFAN to become the newest night host at the station, I would have told that's a pipe dream. But this man did it. Keith McPherson, the Jersey man himself, the evening host at WFAN. He's here with me on the podcast today. Yeah, what's going on, my man? How are you doing?
Let's get it, bro. Appreciate the intro, the kind words, and appreciate you having me on. Like I said, bro, we just talked right before we went live, and some of the stuff we'll leave off the record. But
exactly.
I'm happy to be here, and obviously, two brothers doing what we do in the industry. I'm rooting for everybody black, so I'm proud. I'm proud to be the guy that has broken through to do it. But once you kick a door down, there should be some more people coming. I'm all about inspire or retire. I'm trying to inspire the next generation. I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be doing this forever. But there should be more opportunities for people like us, and there will be in the future because people like us are getting the shot now to be on the radio, be on air, flex our knowledge, our personalities, and show people out there that, hey, there's black athletes, there's black fans, there should be some black radio hosts talking about the sports too. And we do the podcast, right? Yeah. I got to the radio from doing podcasts. I'm retiring from the podcast world soon, doing guest spots, doing my own pod. I don't even want to be doing my own pod sometimes. Now I'm on the radio, and for me, the next step is TV. But this is officially my last guest spot for a while, unless I do I don't know whose podcast I'll do. So I'm happy to be on the pod, man. Let's get into some talk, whatever you want to do. If it's about me, if it's about sports, if it's about whatever, we got some time to talk for whoever wants to listen and hear.
Absolutely. And I can't thank you enough, man, because growing up in New York, man, you grew up in Jersey. You're a Jersey Shore kid, man. Listen, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way. You're a guy that was born and raised in Jersey, grew up on the Jersey Shore. You understand what it's like to grow up in the New York tri-state region. When you first got the news that you were going to be the guy that was going to be doing the night show on WFAN, what was your initial reaction, and walk us through the feelings and the emotions that you were experiencing at that moment in time?
It was a few moments because I'll walk you back a little bit. So back in August, I did my first trial run. It was 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. on August 25th, a Wednesday night in the summer. The new program manager at WFAN, Spike Eskin, he's a visionary. He's helping the brand evolve. He's helping the station go into the future. And I thought they were looking for fill-ins. I thought they were looking for weekend help. I was thinking that I was basically auditioning to just be in the rotation. I had my first show, and I came in with this whole agenda and plan. The Yankees were in a win streak, and I was going to talk about the win streak and highlight each game and what players and how when are the Yankees going to actually lose a game? Yeah. We're in New York. The Yankees weren't playing that night. The Mets were playing, and it happened to be a night that the Mets lost the game. So I had to take calls from Mets fans. I had to completely pivot. I had to, on the fly, step in to something I had never done before, but try and do it the best way I could after listening to WFAN for years and try and figure it out. And I did. And me being a social media guy and a podcast guy, I already had that established. I didn't have any radio experience outside of being at Monmouth University on the radio in 2011 when I graduated.
Wow.
WFAN had never seen the bump in social media, in Twitter ads, in Instagram stories that they saw the night that I was on. For 3 hours, people tweeted about my show. People took pictures of screenshots of their Odyssey app, listening to my show, recorded my show. Oh my God, Keith is on the air. He's killing it. This is great. My boy Keith, I can't believe this. Whatever. I feel like that helped me a ton. I talked to the digital guy, the main guy that runs all the social media, Tom Izzo, shout out to the GOAT. And he said, yeah, man, the next day we were checking social media and we were like, yo, not too many of the things that we do get this type of a reaction. So we're on to something with this guy. A month goes by.
Mm.
I keep in touch with Spike, and I keep hoping and praying that I get another chance. I'm just trying to get another airtime like slot. Like I'm just trying to fill in, and I'm keeping in touch with Spike. Spike is working on some things, but he's basically let me know, I didn't forget about you. You're going to get another chance. He was dreaming bigger than I was dreaming.
Wow.
He was plotting on putting me in the spot that he put me in. And when he first told me this, now I can answer your question. When he first told me this, the legendary Steve Summers name came up.
I know exactly who he is. Mm-hmm.
Steve Summers was in the time slot 7 p.m. to 12. Now, he's done other overnight slots and other time slots, but he was the one holding it down. Before him was JJ, John Jastrzemski, who went on to The Ringer and does the New York podcast. It was JJ After Dark or JJ at Night, and then the Schmooze. So when I first heard that I would be the new nighttime host, it was in the capacity of the Schmooze is the nighttime host. You'll be replacing him. He is opting out, like he's going to retire instead of moving. I think they did offer him another time slot or some type of other, but the Schmooze is 74 going on 75 this year. The GOAT, like he's been there from the start of WFAN to this past year, 34 years he put in. That's my guy. I talked to him on his landline. Like I'm letting you know, like bro is like different. He's a legend, but he basically knew that it was time, and he was so gracious to me when I met him. When people here's a second part. When people saw the press release go out, I was in Puerto Rico on my honeymoon. Baseball had ended, and I got married in July, but I'm such a baseball fan and a nerd. I had to go to the All-Star game the day after my wedding. Drag my wife out to Colorado to see the home run derby and whatnot. And she's like, hey, when baseball is over, let's go on an actual trip to somewhere tropical that I want to go. Cool. So my honeymoon happened to be the first week of November after baseball ended. And Steve was on his way out, and they were keeping it under wraps. But I had already signed the contract and knew that I was coming, but I kept everything quiet. But Steve wanted to kind of say some stuff on air, but they hadn't announced me yet. So they had to fast track the announcement. I'm not even in the States. So I'm in Puerto Rico. Like, I'm not even around, but I'm talking to them. They're like, yo, we're pressing this button and we're going to send the release live, and it's going to have you and Steve in a picture. So when people first saw, WFAN grabs podcaster to replace Steve Summers, or legendary Steve Summers to be replaced by first-time radio host Keith McPherson, I got a lot of hate. And when you asked me how I felt,
really,
I was in Puerto Rico with my wife tearing up because of the amount of love that I got. So let me say that first. I got a lot of love, and it literally made me tear up because I was like, damn, like this many people care about me. This many people that I don't even know are happy for me. This many people are excited. But I did see, and I don't want to say a lot of hate, I did see some hate. I'm Black. So the first thing that you're going to see that sticks out amongst the love is when someone's like, diversity hire, affirmative action.
Facts.
Oh, here we go. Black Lives Matter. Woke. The fan is woke. And for me, that shit doesn't even faze me. It doesn't hurt me. But like, it's just not valid. Yeah. It's almost like it's discrediting the work that I've done and who I am, and actually doing that before I ever said a word on air, before I ever had a show. So me, I collect those things. I put those in my backpack for later. Like, oh, all right. Remember you said I was a diversity hire. Remember you said this guy's got no experience. Remember you said WFAN is trying to be woke. Cool. And I use that as fuel. I was in Puerto Rico, like, motivated to come home, motivated to get to the office, motivated to get started and do my first show. That happened, I think, like November 7th. Yeah. I didn't have my first show till November 23rd. Wow. But my first show, I made sure to say, I'm not trying to be the new Steve Summers. I'm not trying to replace Steve Summers. I can't walk in that man's shoes. I can walk in my J's. I can walk in my Nikes. I can be me. This is my show now. This is my time slot now. This is my voice and my style and my way. And I hope that I put together a product that fits here. I hope I put together some content and some showtime that people enjoy. And I hope that ultimately, like, this adds value to the network, to my own brand, and that people accept me for the wild sports fan that I am. And 2 months in today makes it 2 months. Yep. November 23rd to January 23rd. I think people have gotten to know me. I think people have given me a shot, and I've hit the shot multiple times already. And I'm excited for the future and what's to come because I want to get better, right? I am a perfectionist. I want to perfect the craft. There are many people that have done this for years better than me. I'm listening. I'm paying attention. I'm writing notes. I'm listening to my own stuff, critiquing. I'm having meetings about it because I want to learn how to be a radio host in New York and be a great one. And I'm not going to rest until I am. And that's where we're at in 2 months of me being on the fan, 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Monday night through Friday night. If there's a Nets game or Monday night football on, that takes the precedent, which is cool. I'm a rookie. I can't be on every night for 5 hours. But when I do get those 5-hour shows, you've called in, and I've been able to flex my knowledge of baseball, basketball, football. And I even put out there, hey, we can talk hockey, but I got to pick a team and get my knowledge up. And then what did I do last night? I got a first-class experience with the New Jersey Devils. I took a recruiting trip to the Rock. They rolled out the red carpet. And I think there's a good chance that your boy is going to be a New Jersey Devils fan. And then I'll have some hockey talk on my show. And then what can they say about me, right? Because that was something, too. I remember seeing a lady with just a, gray silhouette on Twitter. I got no love for the people that have the gray silhouette.
Yep. The no image folks.
Your ass is so lazy. You can't even put your face on there. Or are you so ugly that you don't want to show your face on there? But you're talking to me, but you got to hate on me. You got to troll me. So the lady says something about like, oh, yeah, hockey isn't in his purview and he's to this and to that. And I'm just like, okay. Copy. I'm putting that in my backpack for later, right? And then when I'm talking hockey, I'm going to bring more fans into my show and more people to listen. Wait for it. Wait for it. The hate only goes so far. And people hate what they don't know. They hate what they don't understand. And that's why a lot of Black people in our position and in other positions forever have been hated because we're misunderstood. They don't understand our culture. They don't understand our lingo, and they don't understand our perspective because they didn't come up the way we came up. I'm coming out of the Jersey Shore area. Yeah, I grew up in a predominantly white area. I grew up in a predominantly white school, but I learned very early, right? The hood is not far. I spent time in the hood. I got cousins that live in the hood next door. I was going down to Jacksonville, to the projects, to the actual places that you don't want to be. And it ain't sweet. I'm thankful that I grew up where I grew up and I got a good education and I learned how to speak, how to read, how to articulate myself, how to be well-spoken, grammatically correct. That's going to get you further than trying to talk in a certain way to sound cool.
Yeah.
I don't care about people's perception of me, whether it's one side or the other. There's always going to be racism on both sides, right? I get it from Black people that are like, you sound like a white boy. I've gotten that too. Life.
So I know exactly what you feel. Yeah, I've gotten that too.
Never mind that. I sound like a white boy. What does that mean?
Exactly.
Black people aren't allowed to be smart
or articulate.
Articulate. Only white boys can speak well. When that's coming from a Black person, I'm discouraged, not because I'm hurt, because your perspective is off. You think it's not cool to be able to speak the one language that I know how to speak. If I was bilingual, that's one thing. I only know how to speak English. I better have a good command of it.
It's, man, wow. Listen, it's not often on this podcast that I've ever been speechless, but I was genuinely speechless, man. Let's even just start with the fact that there aren't many Black or African American radio hosts talking sports in any major market. It's especially in this industry, it's a dime a dozen. Yeah. I mean, Dave Sims, who I've had contact with within the last year, he was one of the originals at FAN. He's the television voice of the Seattle Mariners now for Root Sports Northwest. There are so few and far in between that I didn't fully realize when I first exploded last year in terms of the content I was putting on Twitter, and for those who are watching this on YouTube, or for those that are going to be listening to this on iHeartRadio or Odyssey, you could check it out at Shukri Wrights. The stuff I was putting out for Bruins hockey, that stuff, like, and I say this humbly, that it really exploded my name in this market and here in the Boston media market. Yeah. It exploded on social media where it was like, wait, black man knows hockey? He can actually talk hockey? He can actually surprise, huh? Surprise, like where it's like
something they ain't seen too much of.
Yeah. And it's funny to me because one, I looked at it with the perspective of that's not my problem. Maybe you need to diversify the voices that you have in your market so that you could see that there are other people that don't look like you who could talk other things other than what the quote unquote norm is. Like you were talking about, like you wanted to expand your knowledge about hockey, about getting into like Devils hockey. And I mean, especially being in New York where the Rangers are the talk of the city right now, like being where they
Islanders are. Too. The Islanders got a brand new arena. People are jazzed about the Islanders place. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like UBS Arena out on the island. So it's as if that when you do something that they don't expect, it's like, whoa, okay, who is this guy? I got to know who this guy is. Yep. And the number one thing that I've gotten a lot of is, yo, Shu, I ain't know who you were before, but man, there's something about you that's different. Right. That we ain't used to a voice like you that's so opinionated and doesn't give a damn. And doesn't give a damn for your feelings or for your thoughts, and it's so refreshing. And I'm like, I appreciate that. But there's something that you said that really stood out, and everything that you said in the opening talk, in the opening question, really was poignant. But specifically, when you talked about inspiring the next generation, about getting more people that look like you and I into this industry, whether it's sports radio or even doing play-by-play broadcasting. In which I just started doing play-by-play 3 months ago. So it's extremely new. And I think that in itself, it's so important because one of the things that my late Uncle Risa used to tell me, and he just passed away in March of last year. One of the things that he used to tell me was that it's about giving back to the community and giving back to people in which that they see that you're doing the very thing that they say that they've always wanted to do, but they see you doing it. Case in point, there was a young 12-year-old whose parent reached out to me randomly on LinkedIn. This was last year. I didn't even know who this person was from a fly on the wall, honestly. She goes, I have a 12-year-old son who wants to talk to you, and I've been following you and what you've been posting on LinkedIn for a while now, and I'm very impressed. Like, can I introduce you to my 12-year-old young black man who wants to know what will it take for me to get into what you're doing? And I said, absolutely. I was just blown away, and I'm like, I'm not a person of notoriety. I don't think I am. But
you are.
But like,
and you're becoming more and more by the day.
And I'm realizing I appreciate that. In the Zoom interview and questionnaire with being a 12-year-old goes, how did you first get into this? Like, what did you do? Did you go to school? He was asking questions that a 12-year-old, you wouldn't expect a 12-year-old to ask. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Yeah. There's something here that's like, okay, you got my attention now, and I want to help you. And by the end of it, I couldn't help but really be blown away, but just be like, I'm just an average guy doing what I've always wanted to do, and really putting myself out there in which I want to have a conversation. This isn't a button up like interview, where did you grow up? Tell me, no, this is more of an informal conversation between two black men who are in the sports media, in which I want people to see what we're doing it is possible, because we need to see more of this in the industry. Whether if you're in Boston like myself, or you being back down in New York or in Chicago, or hell, even if you're in like Jacksonville or Miami or freaking Phoenix, Arizona, you need more of that.
I'm with you, bro. A few things you were talking about, being different and breaking like a mold, and also breaking people's minds. I feel like that's what I'm doing lately. Like, it's just blowing people's minds or breaking down these walls in people's minds to see a black dude like myself last night on the Zamboni, riding around on the ice with my cell phone, waving to the fans, being on the big screen, turning up in the arena. Yeah. My first time ever going to a Devils game. I'm in now. I'm a fan now. And now I'm going to learn about the team in the game and talk about hockey. You might not have been predicting that one. You might not have expected that to happen, but it's happening. Create what there is not. That's a phrase that I've used for a long time, because everybody in this day and age is a follower. It's literal. When you look at Twitter and Instagram, there's followers. Yep. Everybody is a follower because they see people becoming successful or famous or getting money some way that they think is easy. And they don't know behind the scenes there's a lot of work, but they want to just follow that lead and copy someone else and jump on trends. Literally, TikTok is a whole app of follow the trends. Yep. What other people got popular doing, and maybe you could get popular too. I don't move like that. There are no posts on my TikTok. There will be. I'm like almost forced to step into the TikTok world this year. It's fine. I'm a former social media manager, video editor. I know how to attack the platform. I didn't want to for years because I just didn't feel right about it. Yeah. The 13-year-old girls booty shaking in their parents' crib was a little too much for me when I first entered the TikTok world. But let me stay on track here. I'm like visualizing like why I didn't do the talks, but create what there is not, right? There is already a Stephen A. Smith. We don't need another. There already was a Stuart Scott. We don't need another. But there can be a Shukri Wright. There can be a Keith McPherson. And what makes you an individual and a special person in what you do? What do you bring to the table that others don't? What do you create daily, weekly, monthly, yearly that there is not? What are you adding to this internet digital media space where there's so many things for you to listen to, watch, that is going to actually break through? And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, two black men. I think that there are a lot of white people that have listened to the radio for so long and listened to white hosts. They didn't even think about it, that there was no black host. And when a black host that enters like me, young, literally 40 years younger than the guy that I'm replacing, it's met with this like, whoa, not sure about this. Well, you don't need to be sure. The people that hired me were sure, and they're getting paid a lot of money to hire me. So clearly they know what they're doing. Give me a shot. And once they gave me a shot, they found out that I could talk pretty much, with anyone about the NBA and about basketball. My team is the Brooklyn Nets. Specifically, I can talk about the Nets more than any other team. I can also talk football. I played college football. My favorite team is the Cowboys. Unfortunately, they are trash can. Unfortunately, they are garbaggio.
They're not as bad as the Green Bay Packers, specifically Aaron Rodgers, but more on that later.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, see ya never. You're never getting back to the Super Bowl, bro. You might as well go to Denver or go play for the Giants or somewhere that needs another quarterback and do the Brett Favre end of career limp out thing.
Oh, gosh.
I got no love for discount double check. But I'm a Cowboys fan. Unfortunately, I picked them when I was a kid. But I can talk about the Cowboys in the NFL. I can talk about the Jets and Giants. We're in New York. Yeah. And then lastly, I can talk about baseball. And that's what's getting me to the point, like, create what there is not. I have a podcast called Pinstripe Strong that I do with Joe's McFly and Chris McFly. Rarely ever do you see three brothers together on a podcast multiple times a week talking about baseball. Yep. White people like our podcast, but I think there's white people that are like, what? Like it pops.
It blows their mind.
And it breaks us. Like, you guys actually watch the Yankees and you actually love baseball and can talk about it. Yeah. So now I've brought that to the radio. The other night, I did a full 5-hour show talking about why we need to change the process of the Hall of Fame, what these baseball writers of America are doing as the gatekeepers. Why are these nerds even the gatekeepers?
I listened to that show and it's
history. But great. So I don't have to tell you.
Yeah. Like I actually tried to call into the show, but I was getting a busy dial tone. I'm like, I'm not surprised.
We had a ton of calls.
No, I was not surprised. And that's actually a great thing. I'm not trying to like interrupt you whatsoever. But now I listened to that entire show and I was like, yeah, this whole process needs to be thrown up and thrown in the trash. Like that stuff is a dub at this point. But yeah, please continue.
Barry Bonds got to be in the Hall of Fame. Yo.
Barry being inducted.
Barry Bonds.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, everything evolves. And I'll get back to my topic and land my plane. But please, we're talking about the show that I just did. Everything evolves. And I feel like 10, 20 years from now, people aren't going to care about the steroid era. They're not going to be mad at these guys for doing roids. They're going to realize that's what the league was allowing. That's what the league was marketing. And that's what they were doing at that time. And it's okay. Now back to the show. Me being a young black man, an articulate black man on New York radio, having a 5-hour show about the history of baseball, the Baseball Hall of Fame, the baseball writers of America, what needs to change, what players should get in, won't ever get in, this, that, and the other. It flexed my baseball knowledge, and I created what there is not. There are no black people on New York sports radio talking about baseball. Name one other person that you've heard talk for 5 hours about baseball on New York radio that is black. Create what there is not. When you create what there is not, the phones are ringing the whole night. People want to call in and tell you, you're doing great, man. This is a great show. People want to call in and agree or disagree and add their take and be a part of the show. Because in one 5-hour block, I created what there is not. A black guy on New York radio talking about baseball, but with a specific take. My take was the baseball writers of America are ruining the Hall of Fame. The voting process needs to change. Add some Hall of Famers to the voting process. Add some former GMs, some retired players, some retired managers. Get actual baseball guys involved in choosing who gets put in this pantheon, who gets immortality in the Baseball Hall of Fame versus these pen pushers that have an agenda and they use their power against, or these guys just opt out and don't vote at all. I'm like, there's a problem with this. Yeah. It needs to change. 2020 changed the world. We can change the Hall of Fame vote. It needs to evolve. And it was a great show. And like I said, create what there is not. I just feel like I hit a lane that night, and I'm going to do it again. There's going to be another night where I talk about something. In basketball and football, I can't say the same. There are more black faces and black voices talking about those games.
Yes.
But baseball is a predominantly Hispanic Latino sport, but also predominantly white in this country as far as who plays it growing up. And as I'm landing the plane, what I'm telling you is when I was growing up, I had my own family and cousins in Jacksonville. I used to stand outside of my grandmother's house by myself and just throw the ball against the wall and field it. So like I was practicing my throwing and practicing my fielding. And my cousins would come down the street with a basketball in hand, bouncing a basketball, and they'd be like, "Come on, white boy, come hoop with us." Which I would go hoop too. I was a pretty good athlete. I'm gonna go hoop with y'all, but we don't have a hoop at my grandma's house. I have a baseball and a bat and a glove, and I'm out here as an 8-year-old, not understanding why they're telling me baseball is for white boys. Come on, white boy, we're gonna go play basketball, because they've been put in that box. They were told that. I didn't believe that. I'm from New Jersey. I'm down here visiting for the summer. I don't believe baseball is for white boys because I just wasn't thinking like that.
Yep.
It's baseball. There used to be black heroes in baseball. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron.
Yep.
I don't have to run through the list. Everybody listening and yourself, you know. So when did it become baseball is for white boys? I'm glad I didn't listen, because me not listening kept me paying attention to baseball. Some years I fell off. Some years I was more into it than others. I also played sports where when you play sports, you can't be as locked in on sports. You got to be at practice. You got to be at your own games. But as I got to be a grown man, I really went hard with my Yankees stuff. And then I got into the MLB fan cave, Derek Jeter's final season, as the Yankee fan, the Yankee representative. And then I went on to do a bunch of other things like Yankee podcasts. And now I'm on WFAN, the Yankee station, as a black man, because I didn't listen to my own black people tell me, my own family, my own blood tell me baseball is for white boys. I love sports. I love the game. I fell in love with the game very young. I followed my own intuition, my own heart. I created what there is not, and it rewarded me. Being a Yankee fan changed my life. Being in the baseball world has changed my life. Imagine if I didn't have that. That would be a hole for me. I wouldn't have a leg up in the game on WFAN because you can't be on WFAN if you can't talk baseball. Yankees or Mets. Black
Very
guy
true.
comes along like me, he's already stamped in the Yankee world. I'm one of the bleacher creatures.
Sick.
I have a Yankees podcast. I'm with John Boy. The rest is history being made right now.
Which is incredible because growing up in New York, and I tell people this all the time here in Boston, and they're like, okay, you clearly you love the Bruins, yes. You love the Pats, yes. I like the Celtics, yes. But you grew a Yankee fan. How did you become a Yankee fan? I'm like, listen, I was born and raised in New York. The first pro sports team that I fell in love with was the New York Yankees. Like,
how could you not?
Everything. We grew up with the dynasty, and I try explaining to these folks here, and it's like, I grew up with the dynasty. I grew up with Jeter was a rookie at 5 years old, watching him play every day for the Yankees. I grew up watching my favorite member of the '98 Yankees, Scott Brocious, like hit 98 RBIs out of the freaking 9 spot for the '98 Yankees. Like, I watched David Cohn. I watched so many Yankee greats, Yankee moments that I literally explain to people here in Boston and Metro Boston, across New England, that when you grew up in New York, or you lived in New York in the 90s and early 2000s, the Yankees were a religion. They're still obviously popular now, obviously, but we both remember back then, oh my God, that's all that mattered. Who were the Yankees playing in October? That was the question. Who are the Yankees playing in the World Series? That was the question for a five, six year stretch. That was the question. And like now,
it was everywhere, bro. Not to cut you off. I just remember being young and everybody had a Yankee hat. And I remember when it would start to go from summer to fall and get cold, we just knew the Yankees were going to the World Series. And like you said, the question was, the Yankees going to make it there, but who's going to make it from the NL? Who are the Yankees going to beat this year? And as a kid, as you were and I were, we didn't know everything. We just assumed these superheroes that play for the Yankees, they're going to win everything and they're going to win every year. And now they don't win as much, but that culture is built because all of those kids are adults now. And we're in the media now, and we're doing podcasts and radio, and we're telling the stories. And if they can ever figure out how to get the Yankees back to a World Series, the world is going to explode again. There's going to be all of these Yankee fans and all of these people that are casual fans or not really fans, but want to jump on the bandwagon and put that Yankee cap back on. And that's on the Yankees to figure out. But you know, they have enough fans out here really talking it and really promoting it, like myself.
Exactly. In which that it makes you stand out even more. And the thing that I'm learning here in Boston is that in a market in which that, being completely honest, predominantly white, in which that when I first moved there 5 years ago, I knew that I wanted to get into sports radio. I had no idea where I was going to do, how I was going to get there, and so forth. So the first 2 years living here, I'm just trying to survive. 2019 comes, I get my own radio show. And then that leads to the podcast, which I started in March of 2 years ago when the pandemic first started, as we would keep going and keep trying to get reps and so forth. So when I did return back to radio, that I was ready. Now, fast forward to May of last year. I started doing Bruin hype videos like, I'm ready for game 1 tonight against the Capitals. Whoa. And then it literally started with one video. And I'm thinking, I'm just a passionate Bruins fan talking sports on radio. That video went viral, like 40,000 plus views. And I'm getting like either notifications, mentions, like, or even
It's a good
DMs, like,
feeling.
yeah, it's
It's
like,
almost like validation. Like I'm being my true self and I'm putting myself out there and people are viewing it and sharing it and appreciating me for being who I am.
exactly. And now it's like, fast forward all these months later, like I realized that I have a following. I have people who work at the two major stations here in Boston, WEEI and 98.5 The Sports Up, like follow me, and it's like I spoke with someone from 98.5 The Sports Up just very recently, without getting into too much detail, and where it was like, dude, like people know who you are, which, and to me, what makes it exciting but scary at the same time, and it's like, but you're also an African American man who talks hockey and a predominantly white sport. And in terms of the four major sports, there's not a single sport that's more white than hockey. That's just called a spade a spade. So to see someone that has black or brown skin talking about it on radio or on podcasts, or even having notable like hockey guests, like last fall I had Ken Danico on the podcast,
Yeah.
which is on YouTube and iHeartRadio and Odyssey, and it was like, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking
Right.
about.
And that's
So,
solid, bro. And not to cut you off, but like,
yeah.
would somebody do your podcast if you weren't valid, if you weren't good at what you're doing, if you weren't knowledgeable? People can see right through the fake. That's why on my end, when I came on WFAN, I said I haven't been paying as close attention to hockey as I should. But now that I'm working at the Fan, I need to pick a team and I need to get my knowledge up. And I told people from the jump, because I am honest and I am authentic and I am transparent. I'm never going to get on this mic and start talking about stuff I don't know. That's a quick way to get exposed. That's a quick way to make yourself sound dumb. Even when I start like talking about teams or players, like here's the thing. Like I think I pronounced a name wrong. I think it was one of the Knicks bench players, Luka Shamanik. I probably pronounced his name wrong there. But when you pronounce a player's name wrong, people know you're not aware of him. You've never seen him, right? It's just a tell. And if you were a black man posing as a hockey fan, people right away would be able to tell. You're not. You're legit. And as you keep going, you're going to keep learning more, and people are going to see you more, and you're going to be solid. And it doesn't matter that you're black. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. That should be a thing of the past.
Facts.
More black people talking about hockey. We need more black people represented. Maybe more black kids will play. Maybe we'll see ourselves on the ice. Before we started this podcast, I pointed to my Black Panther behind me, right?
Yep.
This Black Panther, that's really like that circle, that's a slip mat. I DJ.
Wow.
Like that goes on top of the vinyl record. But I have it on the wall like a poster because it means something to me. Right? I love Marvel and I love all the Marvel movies, but seeing Black Panther come to life is important because it's about representation. It's about seeing yourself in a place that you didn't even imagine yourself being, a superhero, a radio host, a hockey podcast host.
Yeah.
We can do it. We should be allowed to do it without being criticized or looked at with a side eye. Let us learn, let us in, and help us along the way. There shouldn't be any closed doors for stuff like that. There should be no racial divide in sports. Sports are art. Sports imitate life.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of the divide when you see like, okay, Jacob Blake gets shot last year and the Milwaukee Bucks don't want to play in the bubble game because they are in that area and they feel some type of way. And then you hear people, oh, well, I don't get to just take off from my work. But
Oh,
don't
God,
compare
yeah.
that. That's not the same. What these dudes are doing is taking a stance with their platform so that they're sending a message that that's not right. But then there's a divide where it's like, are there no white players on the team? There was, but they took a stand together where there's no divide with the team. And they're basically letting everybody know, hey, take the time off from watching sports today and see what's going on in our world. Sports are an escape. They're entertainment. But like we all saw last year or 2 years ago now, in 2020, they took the sports away when we all had to sit down. Now that we have them back, we should appreciate them. And we should learn from what we learned in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement, with all the black people that we had to see killed on camera, from obviously George Floyd, who became the most famous, but then also Ahmaud Arbery. That's not police violence, but that's still racism. That's still, that trial passed, and then Jacob Blake, and there's too many names, and it hurts me that I even like know the names and can go through them, and I'm sure you can too, because you don't want to be one of those names. It hurts me because I've been pulled over. I've been treated a certain type of way because I'm black, and it's not right. And I feel like for the first time in a long time, with everyone being quarantined with COVID and everyone having to be forced to watch the news and social media and see all these things, I feel like we did make some kind of progress. My grandmother spoke on it. My grandmother is 75. She grew up in times where she wasn't allowed to get on the bus and had to walk to school, and kids would pick up rocks and get on the bus and throw rocks out of the windows at her and her brothers and sisters as they walked to school, adding insult to injury.
Wow.
She said, baby, I saw progress. There's things happening that I never imagined happening. And even her grandson becoming a radio host in the greatest city in the world, and my name being printed and put on that level. When she was young, that wasn't an option. We weren't allowed to even dream of that type of stuff. So now that we have gotten there, we got to keep it going. And that's why I say I want to inspire the next. Now that we've kicked this door open, right? You're doing hockey podcasts. You're doing radio in Boston, a place that stereotypically is called a racist place. I'm a Yankee fan. I've never been to Fenway. You know why? Because I heard about the type of stuff going on up there. Adam Jones hears the N-word, CC Sabathia, other people. I'm like, I can't bring my black ass to Fenway because as soon as I hear Nintendo, I'm gonna be like, what's going on, yo? Chill with that.
Exactly. Yeah, your ears kind of like perk up a little bit.
Like, hold on, yo, that sounded condo racist. But I will go to Fenway probably this year because people are like, yo, it's a great place and things have changed. Just them putting Black Lives Matter up showed me that they're trying to change and move forward. Let things be in the past, especially that evil, hatred, negativity of racism. Let that be in the past. We can all move forward together, treating everyone as equal and opening doors for Black people to enjoy hockey, to speak about hockey, to enjoy baseball, speak about baseball. We're out there. We exist. We just need the platforms. And now we've finally been given opportunities to have those platforms and sit in those seats and have those mics.
Whenever you do come up to Boston, to Fenway, especially when the Yankees do come up here, Lord, please, I'm asking, please let Major League Baseball figure out this nonsense. This lockout nonsense. I'm trying to be nice and calm right now without going off, because it's really beginning to piss me off.
I just was on a podcast with a young man, 17, that, admires me, and we just did that, and I got really frustrated, and I was like, let me chill.
That's why I had to let me make sure I stay calm now. But whenever you do come up to Boston, seriously, it'll be my honor to bring you to Fenway and go experience Yankees Red Sox. I'm telling you right now, it's a phenomenal place. Phenomenal place to watch a ball game, especially Yankees Red Sox.
They changed Yawkey Way.
They changed it to Jersey Street. And trust me, you have mad cats up here mad upset, how can you change history? This was been Yawkey Way for a while.
To leave that negative, evil history in the past. We'd like to move forward with a better, we don't need to honor someone that we know was open racist. It's that simple. We can move on from that, name it something else, and let that memory fade. They'll be remembered by the people that want to remember them for whatever reasons, but we don't need to honor them when we know some negative, terrible things about them. Leave that racism and that discrimination in the past. Let's move forward with everything.
Exactly. And when we talk about the current state of affairs when it comes to the NBA, especially the Brooklyn Nets, and I have been really one of the more harsher critics of Kyrie when he decided that he wasn't going to get vaccinated. And now that he's back, he's playing road games. I heard that there's a way in which that the Brooklyn Nets could potentially work around that. And in terms of fines and penalties that they would have to go ahead.
Don't want to cut you off again, but there's a good parallel here between Boston and New York.
Yeah.
In Boston, I'm pretty sure I read an article about them changing the mandate where athletes and entertainers, people that perform, whether it's a musician or an NBA player or a hockey player, they can perform unvaccinated.
Yep, correct.
Because it is their job. If they're unvaccinated, but they are an entertainer, they're still allowed to entertain. They reshifted the mandate or move some rules around, whatever. The same thing can happen for Kyrie. Now the money, right? I knew about this. January 4th was the first time I had heard about this. Well, if Kyrie Irving plays in Brooklyn, there'll be $1,000 fine. Then the second time it's $2,000, and then the third time it's $3,000, and the fourth time it's $5,000, and then it's $5,000 the rest of the fines.
Mm-hmm.
Totaling, someone said the total, if it would have started back then, would have been like $80,000. That's nothing to the Brooklyn Nets, whatever.
Right.
Well, Adam Silver sent a memo out to each team saying that you are to follow your city mandates. You are not to break these mandates. If you attempt to break the mandates and pay the fines, you'll also have repercussions from the NBA. So that was never a thing. That was something that people caught on to late, but people like myself that are in these circles and in these conversations and cover the team and actually go to the games and talk to people that work for the team, we knew that that was never an option. The option is to get an exemption, or that by the time April comes and we're at the playoffs, things change. And what I will say is 3 months ago, people told me Kyrie will never play in Brooklyn. He'll never play in the NBA again. Oh, he put himself before the team. He's selfish. His teammates hate him. The Brooklyn Nets don't want him back. And he has to get the shot or he'll never play another game. And those people were wrong.
Yeah.
Everything evolves. Literally everything has to evolve. Change is the only constant. This virus has changed and evolved. I had COVID on January 6th. By January 7th, I had 102 fever. By January 8th, I coughed a little bit. I had some body aches. By the 9th, I was over it. It was like 3 days. And I went back to work after staying out 5 days. It was a 10-day quarantine, right? Yep. We now made it 5. This Omicron is different than the COVID virus people were getting in early 2020. It's not hitting people the same. The hospitals are not overflowing. You know, we're not running out of supplies. People aren't dying every day. There isn't that CNN total of dupe deaths every minute. We are moving into a future here in 2022. It's not COVID-19 2021. It's 22.
I like how you put it.
Let's adapt to this COVID virus and where we are. Kyrie Irving is not a threat. Kyrie Irving is not hurting anybody. Actually, keeping Kyrie Irving off the floor hurt NBA fans. We were deprived of that man's art. Yeah. If you watch Kyrie play, he does things on the court that nobody else does.
Mm-hmm.
He is an artist. He's an entertainer. Let Kyrie play. They killed him. They dragged this man. He is the one that lost money by not playing. The Brooklyn Nets thought that it was the right thing to get the season started and get a couple wins and get the team off the ground without Kyrie versus the distraction that it would have been in the beginning of the year with every post-game press conference asking about Kyrie. If the Brooklyn Nets would have got off to a bad start without Kyrie, it would have been bad. It would have been even worse.
Especially in New York.
I was out there in New York, in Brooklyn, opening night. There was a lot of MAGA energy. There was some Black Lives Matter. It was weird. The first time I ever saw MAGA protesters and Black Lives Matter protesters together.
Strange.
And what were they protesting? Let Kyrie play. Let Kyrie play. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. Over the vaccination. Over the shot in October. Fast forward, November, December, January, we feel differently about these things. Now people are like, I don't know. The whole league was vaccinated, but every team hit COVID protocols, had games postponed, had players miss time.
Yeah.
I don't know now. Does he really need to be vaccinated? The vaccination doesn't make you immune. It doesn't make you immune from spreading it. Yeah. So what are we talking about now? Now that we're not dealing with life or death, now we're not dealing with this thing running rampant and us losing lives. We're talking about people getting sick. We're talking about a cold here. We're talking about the flu here. We're always going to have some form of COVID around. We're going to learn to live with it for the next however many years. Maybe they can eradicate it in, 20, 40 years. But we are learning to live with it. And part of learning to live with it is learning that the unvaccinated are not criminals. The unvaccinated shouldn't be shunned. And that we just created this division. We're sitting on this podcast talking about the division between black and white, the racism that occurs. They are now making some type of classism out of
just crazy
who decides to take a shot or not. Bro, when I pulled up to the Expo Center, it was a crazy scene. They had the military out here in New Jersey. I go in there.
Seriously?
I don't know if the dude, they had the military administering the COVID shots and running the COVID place. I was like, this is eerie, bro. People are lined up like minions, like robots or zombies to get a shot. I rolled up my sleeve. I don't know if dude realized where my shoulder is. I guess my muscle wasn't right. This dude jabbed me in the top of my arm. almost hit the bone. I'm like, chill. I didn't want to do it per se, but I knew I had to do it. You know why I knew I had to do it? I saw spring training happening, and I saw all the writers that were down there covering, showing their vaccination card. It became a requirement. And why'd they make it a requirement? You needed enough people to get the shot. Like, if it wasn't required, I don't think we'd be here where we are with the virus, right? If it wasn't required, it was like, hey, it's optional. We wouldn't get to the point where the virus is under control as fast. We needed herd immunity. We needed enough people to get the vaccine and to slow the rampant COVID spikes that we had. And it did. People weren't dying from it. People were getting it. And that slowly turned into this Omicron and whatever. What I'm saying is, I didn't want to get the shot, but I got it because I knew I needed it. But everybody is different. Kyrie didn't feel like he needed the shot, and he was right. He stood up for something and he won. And let that be a lesson to you, anyone listening. If you believe in something wholeheartedly and you're willing to lose millions of dollars over it, you might not ever be in a situation to lose millions. Kyrie Irving was losing millions of dollars. They dragged his name. They drug him through the mud, and he stood on it and he won. And the Brooklyn Nets pressed the button and they said, okay, you're coming back. And as many people think that the Brooklyn Nets did that because Kevin Durant wasn't out yet. Kevin Durant was on COVID protocols. The Nets had lost like 10 players to protocols. It just was the perfect window. The Brooklyn Nets were planning on doing this. I thought the timeline was going to be after the All-Star break. They did it 2 months earlier than the All-Star break because it was time. They realized as time went on, this was ridiculous. Kyrie's not a villain. And the last thing I'll say on it is that unvaccinated players, right? If 97% of the league is vaccinated, that still leaves a pocket of like 20, maybe, I don't know the exact math, but let's say 30 players that are unvaccinated in this league, and they're playing in arenas every night where the whole audience is vaccinated, the home team is vaccinated, but one visiting player just has to test negative and he's good to go. He's good to play.
Make it make sense.
Justin Holiday, Trey Burke, Bradley Beal before he ended up getting the shot recently. Kyrie just happened to be the world's most famous unvaccinated NBA player, and he didn't care that he was. Aaron Rodgers is unvaccinated. Aaron Rodgers lied. Kyrie just said, please respect my privacy at this time on the matter. I want to talk basketball. This has nothing to do with basketball. I've been playing basketball my whole life. Never was I told that I couldn't play basketball because I didn't get a shot injected into me. I'd rather not. I'm one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And I don't know if I'm speaking for Kyrie. I'm not speaking for Kyrie, but maybe he was thinking, hey, I'm not injecting an experimental drug into this body of mine that I use to play basketball, which feeds my family and will take care of my family. He's got 2 young kids, a son that's like maybe 1 now, and a daughter, I think that's like 6. Kyrie Irving's not taking a shot when we literally heard of an NBA player last year that took the shot, had blood clots, said he was slower. He's out of the league now. I forget his name. The Knicks gave him a look this year. He was with the Hawks, but the Hawks made him keep that quiet. They made him keep that information low. Don't go out there saying that you were affected by the shot, because then other NBA players aren't going to want to get it. Whatever. Kyrie stood on something and he won. And I'm not guaranteeing this, but I am seeing this, that the Brooklyn Nets are working on getting Kyrie back into the arena as an exemption. His dad has been at the games recently. I know if I had a kid and my kid wasn't allowed to come somewhere, I wouldn't be there. I know if I had a son like Kyrie Irving, I'd probably be very proud of him and be representing him. And I wouldn't be out there representing him if I felt like the organization was against him. They're not. They love him. His teammates love him. You can see it. James Harden is giving him the hardest hug when they win the game. They need Kyrie. He's the soul of the team. He thinks differently. He's a flat earth thinker. I'm just kidding with that, because he took that back. But he thinks differently. Just follow his social media. He's posting tribes and the sun and the moon and the universe. And he's very zen, and like, let him be that. That's why you get what you get from him on the court. He's different. We need different. Create what there is not. He is not going to just follow what you told him to do. He stood on it and he won. And don't be surprised if there's some type of exemption where either the mandate changes or they get some type of exemption just for him, and Kyrie Irving is back on the floor in Brooklyn. I knew it as soon as the City Edition jerseys came out and they had his jersey available. I'm like, oh,
it was only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time. They selling his jerseys and stuff still. And then as soon as they press the button, they put him back into the promos and things. And I'm like, Hey, wait on it. Kyrie is on the way back. Wait on it. And they're going to be big mad. There's going to be a lot of people big mad, but it sucks that this thing all turned political, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some people that literally did what he said he didn't want people to do, right? He went on his Instagram live and he said, nobody's going to hijack my voice. I'm going to speak for myself. Well, they did hijack your voice, Kai. They hijacked your voice. The anti-vaxxers hijacked your voice. The political party that wants to be anti-vax hijacked your voice, and they used it against you. There were people out there at Barclays Center that they weren't interested in basketball. And I got upset because I was online and people were like, Nets fans outside protesting Kyrie not being allowed to play. I'm like, are you crazy? It's opening night. We're trying to be in there to see our team. We're not protesting. We couldn't even get in. They had to barricade the door because these maniacs were trying to break the door down. Because that's what they're used to. They're used to violence. They're used to protesting and being violent and showing up with bats and flags and combat boots. We ain't doing all that. We ain't doing all that. Kyrie spoke out. He took a stance. He came back. He's killing. He plays tonight. I can't wait to watch the game. And I do believe that the Nets are going to figure out how to bring that man back. And he'll be back on the floor in Brooklyn. And we hope that we can get the big three together of KD, Kyrie, and Harden, which we haven't been able to keep on the court together. The universe is not ready for a big three that powerful, but it's coming soon.
Controversial question of the day: chopped cheese or the Taylor roll? I had to. I had to.
Let me break it down for you, brother. The chopped cheese is a New York delicacy. It's very good if you get it from the Bronx. There's a couple bodegas in the Bronx.
There's quite a few in Brooklyn that they know what they're doing. Too.
People were like, "You crazy? They got it in Brooklyn." I'm like, "You got to point me in a direction in Brooklyn." I spent way more time in the Bronx at the Yankee games. And
you like going to Barclays, right?
Yeah.
So there's a spot on the corner of DeKalb and Ashton. It's walking distance from Barclays.
Okay.
It's called A&J's. Back in the day, it used to be called Bob's.
I will try one of their chopped cheese.
I'm literally putting that spot on blast right now. Like, look,
it's go good, there. Right? It's got to be.
It's owned by Yemenis, and these are people
I've heard the name of it before.
The A&J's, like, it's right across from my alma mater, Long Island University, right across the street. So if you're like taking the bus, like the B38 going towards downtown Brooklyn, you can get off literally at DeKalb and Ashton's right before Flatbush Avenue, right before Junior's.
Mm-hmm. I know where it's about, and there's a train stop right over there too, not the Barclays one, but
DeKalb Avenue. Mm-hmm.
But so you have the chopped cheese as the New York staple, but that's not for breakfast. The breakfast,
is if you're crazy enough.
Yeah, you're right though. They will make you if you order one in the bodegas in New York, they will make you one, and people will wake up and eat a chopped cheese at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. But I look at the bacon, egg, and cheese as the New York version of the pork roll, egg, and cheese. Now in Jersey, right? I laugh because you said Taylor roll. You combine the names. There is a dispute in New Jersey depending on if you're from the north or from the south or in the middle.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The North calls it Taylor ham. The South calls it pork roll. I'm from the shore, which is technically when
South.
You start to get into the South, we call it pork roll down the shore. Up north where I live now, and I go to order them, I'll be like, yeah, can I get a pork roll, egg, and cheese? And they'll be like, one Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. I'm like, Taylor ham is the brand. The meat is pork roll. You heard what I said. But I guess to communicate it to your chef or whatever, you got to give him the name. You can't call it pork roll up here. But I'm a pork roll, egg, and cheese guy. You always see me posting pork roll, egg, and cheese on my Instagram. A proper pork roll, egg, and cheese from my hometown hits the spot. And I don't like salt, pepper, ketchup on mine. I like it plain Jane. Just give me pork roll, egg, and cheese on an egg bagel. Now, if I'm in the Bronx, I like to get the full hero.
You have to.
Some people get it on a roll though, because it's $1 cheaper, and I get it. Times is tough. You might have 5, you might not have the 6.
Facts. Yep.
You might have the $5 bill, you might not have the 6 but I like to get mine toasted, and I make sure I tell toast me up, like extra toasty.
Facts.
Like for real, because if you don't toast the chopped cheese up, and you might be walking for a minute, or you don't eat it right away, the bread gets
soggy. Yep.
And it's not as enjoyable. But if you get them to toast and crisp the bread up, give me everything on it. Some of the homies will get crazy with some pepper jack cheese.
I'm one of those.
Yeah,
I'm
just
Keith,
I'm
listen,
standard with mine. Just give me the regular American cheese or whatever.
you can't be standard Jane. Like, listen, you get yourself a chopped cheese or a bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning. You get it toasted, yes. You know, like, but like with chopped cheese, what I like to do, and this is gonna sound crazy, peppers, pepper
You
jack
put peppers
cheese.
on your top. You like
Hell
them
yeah.
spicy.
Green
Okay,
peppers,
everything spicy.
onions. You damn right. Green peppers.
You got the Dominicans. You ain't even got Ak. You got the Dominicans making yours. You got the
nah,
Puerto Ricans making
fam.
yours.
Nah, yo, listen.
With the spices, with the pepper jack and the peppers.
Listen,
That's great.
If I want to have the Dominicans have it, bro, like all I gotta do is hop on the A train, go up to Washington Heights, and I'll go anywhere in the Heights and have them make it for me. But now, like I gotta have chopped up onions, cooked onions, green peppers. If they have like the chopped up jalapenos, add that in there too.
You're making me hungry. I'm about to order some. I might order one before this football game at 3. I need to get lunch now. I'm like, nah. It's been a minute since I had the chopped cheese because I usually do that when I'm in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium. Obviously, it's January. I ain't been up there since September.
Yeah, same. Like I haven't been in New York since last spring. Like I'm way overdue. My parents. I miss my parents. Like. And a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in a while. So like I'm like way overdue to return back down to the city, like just like to the visit.
Come check back in, bro. Don't let Boston completely steal you, turn you into a Bostonian. You got to come back to the soil. You got to come back and check in and restore the feeling. Get back to the roots and then go back and handle your business and work and do what you got to do up there.
Absolutely, and that's the plan. Like, and I'm like, look, like I can't stay away for too long. It's killing me now. And I'm talking about it. I'm just like, look, I know New York got crazier, but it's where I'm from. Like it's still
New York is always crazy.
It's home. Yeah.
People say it got crazier because we saw what happened in 2020. And even in this COVID time, it is crazy.
And even a few days ago with those 2 cops getting shot, like and whatnot. Like I heard about that. I'm like,
I hate that goes down, but it's there are war zones out here. We all know what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, it's unfortunate, but like that is New York. There's too many people. There's too many people in one space. Mm-hmm. And that just breeds violence and crime. But there also breeds great creativity and food and fashion and sports and entertainment. It's the Mecca. It's Market One. It's the greatest city in the world for a reason.
Mm-hmm. It most certainly is. Like, and I still maintain that to this day. And a couple of questions left to wrap it up before division weekend officially kicks off. NFL. I got to ask you about the topic of the day, and that is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers got absolutely annihilated, including I did part of the annihilating myself on Twitter last night, and I take pride in what I did because, see, it's hard for me to separate Aaron Rodgers, the person, and Aaron Rodgers, the athlete. If you weren't vaccinated, all right, fine. But the fact that you lied about it just makes me like, I can't root for you. I actually want to see you choke in the biggest way possible. I'm watching the game last night with my lady, and Fox showed a shot of Alex Rodriguez and whoever that lady was.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm like, who is this? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, nah. This is bad news beers. And then that block pump, bro. I'm like, they losing this game. Yep. I tweeted this out, and like this is on my Twitter timeline at Shukri Wrights. Yo, you can feel the energy change. That place went from buzzing to dead. And when Robbie Gould, who never misses a field goal in the playoffs, kicked that field goal, oh man, all hell just broke loose. So let me just ask you this. Aaron Rodgers, do you think that he is the greatest underachiever in NFL history, given his talent? And also, do you think that he is going to leave Green Bay once the postseason concludes?
He's up there as far as underachievers. There's a lot of people that like to put the GOAT tag on him, but this next generation of quarterbacks is going to wash Aaron Rodgers. And 100%. I say that because we already have Mahomes with the same amount of rings. Don't let Josh Allen or Joe Burrow get a ring. And then they got all this time ahead of them to be better. Rodgers seems to not be able to get past his favorite team, the 49ers, the same team that didn't draft him, the same team that he wanted to go to. He still probably wants to go to him. He might pull a KD, my next step. He might leave the 49ers. They trade Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and he gets to go home. But he hasn't been able to get it done, right? Yeah. And I don't want to hear about the defense or the play calling. You're supposed to be the GOAT, right? You get what you deserve, bro. The universe never unconnects. I feel like the football gods frowned on Aaron Rodgers. I feel like the way that he was moving, they're like, we don't want to see you succeed, bro. You know why? Because you lied about your vaccination. And before that, you were not with your team. You damn near skipped training camp and all the offseason stuff. Arrogant. You tried to undress the organization that literally drafted you and made you and gave you this opportunity. And now you want to just walk away from them? Like, bro, you don't deserve to win. You go out there and you talk on these podcasts and you talk like you're this
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Yo, you talked about, I got some information from Joe Rogan and my doctors, and I'm immunized. I'm immunized.
Laughing. I'm like,
what are you talking about? You're immunized. Either you got the shot or you didn't, bro. You lied. And they're gonna still give him MVP, but you can take that MVP trophy. You've had MVP trophies. You're only gonna get that one Super Bowl. And I think that's gonna, his career is at the end. So like he's gonna start falling out of the GOAT conversation. I don't think he wins another Super Bowl. And I think these young quarterbacks that are coming up, I think Burrow wins one in his time. I think Josh Allen wins one in his time. If they win two, they win multiple, we're going to start talking about some new GOATs. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers in that conversation. I got no love for him, obviously.
I got no love for him either, especially after everything that went down. As you referenced the drama that went on during training camp. Is he going to show up or is he not going to show up? And then lying about being like vaccinated. Oh, I'm immunized. Like, really? You knew what the hell you were saying. Yeah. Stop with the BS already. Like, and then the last question I'll ask you before I wrap up the podcast. Looking ahead to the spring, there's a lot to look forward to, especially when it comes to the NBA. There's two teams in the West right now that really could give Brooklyn a run for its money. That's Phoenix and Golden State.
And Memphis.
Let's say in Memphis, I gotta give Memphis their respect because Ja Morant
Barclays and beat the brakes off us. I was sitting
Ja Morant is Ja Morant is a murderer. He's an assassin. So if you had to pick between Phoenix, Golden State, or Memphis as a potential opponent for the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA Finals this upcoming June, which one of those three teams do you fear more and why?
I fear them all. They all have beaten us, and they all have beaten us in Brooklyn, and I was at all of those games. I want the Warriors. I want it to be Nets Warriors, and I want the Nets to face the Warriors and beat the Warriors so that we get the Steph and Kyrie battle again, but more so that we get KD versus former team, and we can shut Stephen A. Smith up. Stephen A. Smith said he left Clay and Steph for Kyrie, and Kyrie ain't even getting a shot and playing, blah, 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 blah. When we get to the finals, I would love it to be the Nets versus the Warriors, and then KD wins it with the Nets, and then it starts to erase the narrative of, he had to jump on the super team and win it with the Warriors. He didn't win one on his own. Nah, he left, made his own team, and then beat that team. So then what say you then? That's the dream for me. I know it's probably slim chance it happens. I fear all of those teams. I fear teams in the East. I fear the Bucks. I fear the Heat. I fear the Bulls. Luckily, we got the best of them, but it's the NBA. There's good players on every team. There's good coaches on every team. We have a second-year coach that was a great player, but we don't know if he's a great coach yet. We hope that our great players and Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, and the cast of others are good enough to get it done this year. It's championship or bust. And in this window, this is year 2 of championship or bust. We only got like 2 or 3 more years left of these guys in their primes. And then they're going to be over 35, then, maybe some things happen with contracts and they move or they leave. It's now. We built all this for now. Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll say, as we're wrapping up is every year an injury impacts the NBA playoffs. Every year, every champion goes through a team that was hurt by an injury, right? Look at the Bucks. The Bucks, Trae Young got hurt. He missed some games with that, stepping on the ref, whatever. Kyrie got hurt. Giannis came up under him, didn't let him land. maybe they don't get out of that round. Like that happens. Look at LeBron. LeBron, it wasn't so much an injury, but Draymond was out in the year that LeBron and the Cavs beat the Warriors.
2016. Yep.
Look at the Raptors. The Raptors didn't have to face KD. KD popped his Achilles, and the Raptors were able to win with Kawhi. Like it happens every year. So I expect
with Klay Thompson. That was when
Klay Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Klay Thompson got hurt.
Yeah.
Teams are going to lose players somewhere in the playoff run or somewhere in the season. And the champion is always who can stay the healthiest. It's survival of the fittest, who can stay the healthiest and have their guys all ready and on the floor. So that's what's going to play into it. And I hope that the Nets are ready to go. And I think they will be because of the rest that they've gotten from COVID, or now KD getting rest, or Kyrie being completely out of it for the first 35 games.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could line up for us and be a special run.
Keith McPherson, catch him weeknight, 7 p.m. to midnight. WFAN 660, 101.9 FM in the Odyssey app. As you can see, if you're watching it on YouTube and whatnot, my sincerest thank you for making the time to come on the podcast today. Man, I can't wait to chop it up with you and even call into your show as well to talk furthermore, man. Like this really has been a blast for sure, man.
Shukri, Mr. Wright, I appreciate you, bro. I'm glad we found the time. I'm glad you were patient with me to find the time and get this done. Like I said, man, these guest spots on podcasts, I got a ton of people reaching out for me to do them. And obviously, time is money, time is valuable, and I'm not going to charge anybody, but I think I'm taking a break from doing the guest spots just to focus on my show and some of the things I've got going on now. But for this to be my last guest spot for a while, it was a great time talking to you. I hope people enjoyed the conversation. I think we had some real talk on top of the sports talk. And I'm rooting for you, bro. Can't wait to meet you, whether it's in New York or Boston. Keep doing your thing. Keep being a great example and keep putting on.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.